Hi everyone, I am Krylios, Team Rayceen Productions MC and producer. And today, as usual, I am joined by Rayceen Pendarvis. Hey Rayceen.
How are you? Greetings and salutations to all.
It's so great to be here with everyone.
We are honored and we are here with, and I'm going to have the man of the hour introduce yourself.
I'm guessing that's me, and I appreciate it. I'm at-large Councilmember Robert White, and hopefully going to continue to be at-large Councilmember Robert White for another 4 years.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about that. So you just ran in the primary. How was that for you? How do you feel about it? What was it like? What was the cycle like? Tell me about it.
So let me come and give you an inside scoop. I ran unopposed in my primary, which is a lot of work to get there. Because, you know, if you work hard every day, if you stay in touch with the people, do the work of the people, prioritize the people, then hopefully the people respond. And so I didn't have an opponent. But even if you run uncontested, you still don't want like 60% of the people, you know, voting for nobody. So you're still a little nervous. But then the coronavirus hit, which impacted fundraising, our ability to knock on doors. So it was a really kind of interesting, unique process. But we came out with over 97% of the vote, you know, really strong reflection. And I'm happy about it.
That's
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what are your thoughts on the large number of independent candidates?
So it's not a surprise. As you know, Rayceen, I ran unsuccessfully once, and it was running for an open seat, and there were 14 or 15 of us running at the time. So when my colleague and friend David Grasso announced that he was not running for re-election, I knew that there would be a lot of candidates. We're climbing toward 20 candidates running for running as independents, and so it's going to be a busy and pretty crazy general election. There's some good candidates in there. There's good energy in there. Unfortunately, we only have 13 council seats. And so a lot of good people are still not on the council. I wish the council actually was a lot bigger. There's a lot of talent and dedication out there, but it'll be an interesting general election.
Definitely. And speaking of an interesting general election, it's been a really interesting year. You know, this year has been taking us from one thing to the next, from the pandemic to the demonstrations to, you know, a lot of things. As a matter of fact, speaking of the pandemic, there's a new national spike, you know, all over the country, different national spikes, and DC slowly reopening. Tell us about that. Give me your insights on DC's reopening and the spikes around the country. You know, how are we prepared for that?
Well, we've taken a more conservative approach here in DC, and I give a lot of credit to Mayor Bowser on how she has handled the coronavirus epidemic. We have reopened more slowly than a lot of states, and those states that reopened more quickly, they saw very sharp spikes. But in fact, I don't think they had really ever hit their peak. So in DC, we think we did hit our peak. But we have to be careful because as we reopen, folks are re-exposed, and it comes down to whether or not people take it seriously. So just because things reopen doesn't mean that you have to get careless and stop wearing a mask and go out every day. So if we are responsible, we can see a little bit more of a return to normalcy. But you know, if we get too eager and reckless, then we're going to be in trouble.
Oh, wow. I can just imagine. Well, thankfully, we are a part of the, you know, the country where our numbers have still been going down. And, you know, I want to thank you guys for doing, you know, your part and playing your part in allowing us to keep the numbers down in this region. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let me ask you, we talk about the climate and a lot of things are happening with the level of demonstrations and regarding the MPD. Yeah. What do you think the council should do?
So the council has to start to reduce the size of our traditional police force and instead look to non-police response for so many things that we have overused police for in the past. So for instance, if I run a red light, why do I need an armed city employee with exclusive jurisdiction to stop me. If there's a mental health crisis, is it the police that are best, able to respond in a good way, or is that really a mental health professional? And so they, as you start to ask these questions of, why do police have jurisdiction over this thing and this thing, you start to realize there's not a logical connection here, but the impact has had a very disproportionate effect on the Black community. And we see that with over 90% of the folks in DC that we incarcerate are Black. We see it with the vast majority of people that we stop for traffic stops and searches are Black. And so we really have to start to rethink our understanding of policing and of public safety, because each year we increase the size of the police department, but our violent crimes and murders go up as well. So it's not as if more police equals, a safer city, but at some point we owe it, I think, to Black folks to try something different, to try an approach that really addresses crime before it starts and starts to get at the root of these issues with our city funding, instead of saying, let's just keep throwing our funding at police instead of solving problems.
Oh, precisely. Now, speaking about these problems, because the year has been so tumultuous, I can imagine that, early in this year or late last year, you probably had a different vision and a different outlook and a different strategy for how you were going to, come at the general election in November. Now, because of how the year has been, tell me what has changed when it comes to your strategy for the general election, and what are your concerns in general for this general election for this country?
I would tell you, I was made for this moment. So much of like who I am and how I, came to be as a man has to do with my own fight for racial justice. And that's the work that I've done on the council. And so, instead of saying to people, well, I want to do this thing here and that thing there, which are true, I can tell people what I've been focusing on, what I'm going to continue to focus on is racial justice. But now we as Black folks in America have a platform, have enough non-Black allies who understand for the first time, many of them, the plight, the historical difficulties that African Americans have had. And so we can build on this platform if we do it very deliberately and frankly, relatively quickly. So I'm excited. This actually helps me a lot because, so many of us have been eager to make progress for a long time, but we didn't have the opening. And now we have the opening and we got to get this done. And so I can talk straight from my heart to the people of DC, and hopefully they're going to say, what, I believe what this brother is saying and that he's going to get it done.
How about that? And that's so important. And for those who are watching us live on YouTube, how can they support your campaign and follow you?
Yeah, well, please do. I would love to see more yard signs out there. Engage me on social media. My social media is Robert White _DC. And my campaign website is robertwhite4FORDC.com, and would love to continue to engage you. We still got a long road between now and November. So we want to keep building momentum, keep adding people to the team. Your voices are important to me because I can only do my job well if I'm hearing from you. So please do engage us and roll with us.
Thank you. That is so important. And it's such a pleasure having you here today. Team Rayceen loves hanging out with Robert White.
I do
it's our
too.
favorite thing. So thanks for coming by today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anytime.
Oh, and most of all, thank you for watching.
Bye.